How I ended up getting my commercial pilot license. Last week I did my flight test up here in Brisbane at Archfield, and successfully, first time round, like all my 7 theory subjects, got over the line with a successful flight test. So I'm gonna try and just jam through them pretty quick, the steps in which I took to be able to get my CPL. It's different for everyone, and it was definitely different than what I thought it was gonna be for me. And I just wanna share that journey, I guess. So then if anyone else is wondering about taking an alternative pathway to getting their CPL, they can have mine as a case study. So first of all, I started flying in 2020, January at Bass Air, Bankstown, Sydney. Yep, part of one of the big colleges. Say what you will about that structure of learning to fly. For me, it was awesome. I met some really, really cool guys that I learned to fly with, and obviously started there, did my recreational pilot license flying the little Cessna 150s around Bankstown, and then moved on to doing my PPL, which we had a bloody great time doing. Flying around New South Wales in the Piper Warriors, sort of getting a handle of things there, which was great. After the PPL, we started CPL theory and obviously our command building flights, which really, really fun. That was still with Bass Air. And at this point in time, we were doing Zoom classes. So instead of in classroom theory classes, we were doing Zoom theory classes, which I actually really enjoyed. It was in the midst of the COVID-19 lockdowns. You know, we were able to stay at home and study for each of those theory exams that came through, and successfully went through all of them myself without failing any, which that was the goal at the start. And I'm pretty stoked that that actually came to be, because I always thought that the theory part of flying was going to be the part that was going to let me down. But, you know, put your head in the books and you can get through it. I guess, you know, even me being somebody who's been notoriously shit house in the classroom, dyslexic, and just, you know, I can't really pay attention to things that I'm not that interested in. I was able to make it through and get a pass for each of the subjects first time round. So if I can do it, you can do it, that's for sure. After that, we went forth. Brett and I clocked up 30 command hours flying around the country in the Warriors, which was awesome. You know, those flyaways and those different adventures that we started to go on then was really something super, super special. I definitely couldn't recommend it enough to, if you are doing command building flights, to try and see if you can take the plane away for a week or a couple of days at least. Go somewhere you haven't been before, take a buddy, you know, both put your skills to work and test yourself in different environments and different situations that are outside of the normal bounds of what you learned or what you did your PPL in. So that was awesome. After that, I moved up to the Gold Coast just after COVID started to take a hold on Sydney. For the better, the weather's great up here. And then I was still with Bass Air for another month, where I did my night VFR training at Archfield, Brisbane, which was really good. But then it came to a point where I wanted to go back to work. I had a really good opportunity to be able to do so. I went forth and did that. And I was going to go and join or continue my flying with Brisbane Aviators. Found Flight Standards, who are an outfit that is both in Archerfield and up in the NT, to be a company that was probably the best around to be able to prepare you for like GA flying. What they had to offer was really, really unique in a way that they have a charter business as well as their flight school, and they have grounds in Darwin, Northern Territory, Alice Springs, and obviously Archerfield. Moved over to them, gave them a crack. But before I did that, there was about a 6-month period where I leased a little Cherokee called VH Uniform Whiskey Bravo. So just a little 140 horsepower, 1965 Piper Cherokee. Had an absolute blast clocking up the extra hours I needed to be able to get to the 200-hour minimum for the non-integrated course for doing your CPL. Honestly, my technical procedure of flying probably got worse because I moved away from flying with the school, but my confidence and ability to think on the go and fly into different unknown parts of the country strengthened like tenfold. Some of the best confidence building flying that I'd done because I was able to just pick up the plane, head somewhere, figure it out on the day and as I go. You can't learn any other way than doing it. You just have to go out there and do that sort of flying, which was great. So I flew the Cherokee around for about 6 or 7 months. After that, did a couple flyways with some friends. Obviously the flyway we did up to Birdsville, which was a bunch of fun with the boys from down in Sydney. And then after that, we did another one up to Alice Springs for the Think Desert race earlier this year. And then coming back to training, got down and dirty with the guys at Flight Standards and flew the 172 RG for about 10 hours or 10 or 15 hours in preparation to doing my commercial flight test, and then went forth and did the flight test. I'll tell you a little bit about the actual flight test itself because it'll be interesting for anyone that's preparing as well. I had about 250 hours at that point in time. Obviously I'd done all of my theory subjects within the 24 months beforehand, which is the expiry dates on them. I had my class 1 medical and ASIC card and all the other requirements that you need to have to be able to sit the flight test. Went into the day. I thought in preparation we were going to get the flight and the details of the flight an hour before we actually were to take off, but luckily we got the flight details 24 hours before set to take off, which I was grateful for because then I was able to put in a bunch of work and prepare for the thing, using pretty much every resource that I could to be able to prepare. One of them being, and you would have been told this many times from your flight instructors or anyone that you've flown with earlier on, is just chair fly the hell out of your flights. What I did was got the flight plan together, went over it a bunch of times, took a heap of notes on each different step that was going to have to be taken throughout the flight. And then I rang up my buddy, Brett Johnson. Thanks, mate. You're an absolute legend. Actually just discussed the whole flight and what I thought were the right steps to go through. And in that phone call or that chair flying session, there were some things that I overlooked, but he picked up. It's always good to have a second set of eyes and use every bit of resource that you can to be able to plan for that. So then, went into the flight test day, got the weather, finalised the flight plan, and then went forth and flew it. My flight was Archerfield to the Gold Coast, so some controlled airspace work in going to the Gold Coast. Picked up another passenger, like hypothetically, then flew west, intercepted a railway, flew at low level along the railway, inspecting it, just like you would in a charter flight, and then over some town, and it was really just, all of that was like a big combination of all the things that we had learned compressed into one flight. So all of those navs which you were focusing on one specific area of your flying was combined together into the one flight with the commercial flight test. And then went over and did some prec search and landings, some ALA landings as well, just out in a grass strip that we found. Got lost, did some unusual attitude recoveries under the hood, then headed back from that western point, which was just about 20 miles north of Warwick. Flew back through the Amberley controlled area, controlled airspace, back into Archerfield to do some, flapless glide approach, short field landing technique work back at Archerfield. CPL flight test. HTP. Didn't fly that well, but nevertheless, we got it done. Your beauty. The flight was everything that you'd learned or that I'd learned throughout your PPL training, your commercial flight training with those navs and the build up towards it into one flight rather than split over a few. Total time in the flight test was 3.6 hours. So it was quite a long sortie and really, pretty tired by the end of it as well. So fairly important to get a good night's sleep and prepare So you're in good stead before that flight. I think that, you know, in hindsight, I probably could have taken the day off of work beforehand as well. So then I could have prepared for it even better. So, you know, preparation is key in all of this. Yeah, look, that's pretty much the summary. So just to sort of pack it in a bit quicker, it's like I started with Bass Air in the integrated course, did a heap of private flying with Uniform Whiskey Bravo and other planes, and then finished it off with flight standards in Archerfield. You know, it was awesome because in hindsight, it probably took me a lot longer than what it could have if I stayed with Bass Air, but the benefit of it was, it's like I've been able to meet a heap of people throughout the industry, learn a bunch of different things that otherwise I wouldn't have, and also, you know, experienced some really, really awesome things that aviation can provide. So I'm pretty stoked at this point in time to be able to say that I've knocked it off and yeah, sort of on to the next thing. And on that, the next thing is pretty much just going to be focusing on some private flying from now, and might do a few more ratings to see if I can get a little bit of work here and there. But yeah, no real rush at this point in time, given the state of the environment. Yeah, hopefully this sheds a little bit of light on how I went about it. And if you do have any questions about what were the best things or what things that I would recommend, or, you know, just any ideas that you want to throw around, maybe I could shed some light on what worked and what didn't work for me. So cool. I'm looking forward to posting some more fun and adventure flights as well in the coming months. So hopefully we can get out there and see some more of the country from air. Woo! Yep, pretty happy with knocking that one off, guys.